Hello and welcome to my yoga channel. My name is Chris and I'm a 200-hour registered yoga instructor. I am so excited to join you today for this practice. Whether you're a beginner or a very experienced yoga practicer, this really is for everyone. So grab your mat and join me. We will be going over a 10 to 15 minute vinyasa flow, what I like to call the lunch break practice. Is something that I practice pretty often on a lunch break or before or after work. I work a job where I'm sitting all day long and it can be pretty taxing on the body and the mind. So yoga is imperative in my daily routine. So I hope that you can take this and pull it into your daily routine as well to just provide some relief and enjoyment throughout your day. Thanks for joining me.
Let's get started by beginning in an easy seated position. Next, we'll move into Cobbler's pose, where you will remove the flesh from your sit bones and make sure your feet are facing upwards. And we will begin by folding over and taking a few deep breaths here. We'll extend our arms forward so that we can really melt down into that pose and begin our practice with some relaxation as well as a deep stretch. Walk your hands back up and we will twist to the right side, inhaling and exhaling a few times. Really sitting up straight, breathing through the chest, down into the abdomen. And we will switch to the left side, inhaling and exhaling a few times on this side as well. Now we're going to move into a cat-cow pose, beginning on all fours, inhaling and exhaling. A few times here, really opening up the chest and stretching the back, which is how we want to begin every yoga practice, really making sure you're getting warmed up. Coming into a plank, we're going to move into a downward dog, really stretching into that downward dog. You can pedal the feet if needed to really stretch into that. Inhaling and exhaling here a few times. Returning to your plank, looking up to the sky, and returning to a downward dog pose. Make sure you're pressing away from your ears with your shoulders, with your hands rooted into the ground. Breathing in and out, pressing your tailbone up towards the ceiling. Now let's make our way into a child's pose for a few inhales and exhales. A few breaths here, really stretching into child's pose and just taking a minute to relax and center before we move into some standing positions. Now we will make our way to a standing pose, beginning in mountain pose, having your feet hip-width distance apart, your shoulders down and back, and your palms facing forward. Moving into tree pose, we will bring our foot up above the knee, making sure that you don't put any pressure on that area. If you aren't able to bring your foot up that high, no problem. You can simply rest your foot down below the knee on the calf and balance in this pose from there. Next, we're going to shake it out a little bit and move to the other side in tree pose. You can have your hands here at heart center, or you can have your hands to your side, but I prefer to have my hand at heart center. It does help me balance a little bit. Next, we will shake it out and move into Warrior 3 pose, which I also like to refer to as flying like a bird pose. And I will show you a few variations here of what you can do with your arms. I prefer to have my arms down and back, making sure that your gaze is slightly forward above your mat. We will shake it out on this side and move to Warrior 3 on the other side, making sure that your gaze is still slightly forward in front of your mat, focusing on squaring your hips. Now we will move into chair pose. Let's get a few deep breaths here, inhaling and exhaling while extending the arms up. And we will move into Warrior 1 pose, really stretching down into the hips here. We'll stay here for just a few breaths while focusing on really engaging the inner thighs. And moving into Warrior 2 pose on this side. Have your gaze be right past your fingertips. Now we'll move into Warrior 1 on the other side, making sure that you keep a strong back leg straightened with your arms up and engaging the core. Now we'll move into Warrior 2 on this side, making sure that your feet are lined up and your front foot will be parallel to the sides of your mat, with your gaze extended just past your fingertips. Moving into chair pose on this side, really sinking down, engaging the glutes, engaging the core, reaching your arms up over your head. Now extending up and out of chair pose, we'll take a slight back bend. Next, we're going to move into some seated poses before we end in Savasana. Make sure you're comfortable, and we will begin with a wide angle seated forward bend. You can spread your legs as far as you feel comfortable. If you're feeling a lot of tension or even pain in the legs or the back, maybe bring your feet in a little bit. We're just going to hold this forward fold here, inhaling and exhaling. And walking your hands back up. Next, we're going to move into Dandasana, which is just a seated pose, also referred to as staff pose. And we'll make our way down into your seated forward fold from staff pose. You really want to make sure that when you do go into this pose, you are taking a deep inhale and lengthening through the spine before you exhale and bend over. Now we're going to move into our final pose of today's practice, and we're just going to end with a few rocks back and forth with our knees tucked into our chest, and rocking back and forth on the spine before we end in Savasana. where we'll come to a fully flat position, laying down flat on our backs, making sure that every part of your body is comfortable, relaxing your muscles in the face, in your mouth. You can bring your hands down to your sides, or you can rest them on your belly, whatever's most comfortable for you. We're going to stay here for about 3 to 5 minutes, just inhaling and exhaling, and letting the body release. This is a good final stretch of today's practice before you head back into the rest of your day or wind down into your evening. We'll stay here for a few more minutes. Let's begin to wake the body up. You can bring your legs up with your feet planted on the ground, maybe rocking your head back and forth, side to side, before coming up on one side. And we'll end in a seated position. Namaste.
I'm super excited to be producing a lot more content for this channel, so please subscribe, leave a comment on the video below,